side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Arvel Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on the show.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
You need to know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Don? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on Sport.
Game Time Decisions is live on SportsGrid, and sometimes you just know you are in for a good one, and that is the case tonight. Happy to have you with us here on this Thursday. Kevin Walsh live from the Decisions desk, where we did just get some news out of Philadelphia. The Eagles finally hiring an offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion, who just recently, Manny, and as I said, everyone knows it, Sean Mann, as he'll be known from here on out, is the man for the job. Did it again. I said it was a good one. Proved it true 2 minutes in. All right? We love to see that. Eagles' new offensive coordinator. We knew Jalen Hurts was going to have a new play caller. That was obvious. Well, I mean, the early odds suggest he'll have another one next year if Sirianni's fired, right? So that's just kind of where we are. The 33-year-old pretty recently was actually in the National Football League. It's going to be really interesting coming over from Green Bay, who was a team that had a sneaky, really good year offensively, specifically Jordan Love. I think there's going to be, some excitement in Philadelphia. It also feels as if Sirianni, who I think is kind of being credited for this coaching search and hire, went outside his guys, if you will. I think that was why maybe some were lower on the Jim Bob Cooter rumors. We'll talk more about this tonight as the Eagles have announced their new offensive coordinator. Where I am sure most of you are focused in on is where you can get involved on this slate. And, well, temperature check, people. It's ice night. It's a hockey night. It's just what it is. A lot of good games. 75% of your best bets will come from the NHL. So I offer up the people a challenge. All right? If you are routinely NBA better, college hoops better, whatever it might be, get involved with this NHL slate. We're going to do it together, okay? Big card, 3 of 4 best bets come from it. It starts with a handful of 7 o'clock games so we can root on some of these wagers through at least the first period, probably a little bit into the second. What's the biggest game on this slate, you ask? Good question. Is it Islanders-Rangers? Maybe. Is it Devils-Predators? Maybe. As the number one Sabre show in all of sports, they're in action playing the Kings as Buffalo plays, I believe, their 90th hockey game of the season. You got to be kidding me with these guys. They're on card each and every night. We will be involved with the NHL on this Thursday. Now, if you do want to get involved with college basketball, we always take a look. Where's the ranked action? Couple of top 10 teams go tonight. Iowa State against Colorado in Big 12 play. That number working a little bit towards the Buffs, which is understandable. CU on the season has actually not lost by double digits, but they also have not played a team of Iowa State's caliber on the road yet. this season, and that's how you get to a number of this stature. Illinois, probably a bit underranked relative to the AP poll. Their most recent performance, win at Purdue, is one that feels like it kind of changed and elevated the perception around this team. In maybe a sandwich spot here, coming off of the Purdue win, their next game on the weekend will be at Nebraska. It's top 5 Cornhuskers. Is Washington a 12.5-point dog live in this basketball game, much less to cover the number? I think that's possible. I think it is absolutely possible here. And I will say, we have really had a very, I think, fortunate and appropriate week of college hoops where we're getting ranked major conference action each and every night. It carries over to tomorrow. We've got Michigan State, Michigan, and then the weekend is going to be fantastic. So we will take a look at all of that. If you're interested in the NBA tonight, all right, it is, as usual, one of these landmine nights. You do have Minnesota and Oklahoma City in the late primetime window there. Anthony Edwards, though, is going to play despite the Wolves being on a back-to-back. I wonder if this is Minnesota trying to keep momentum. And it's not going to be easy playing OKC, but we've talked about it. This is still not a healthy Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a team who is just still without Jalen Williams on a regular basis. Cason Wallace, our DPOY guy, picked up an injury. I don't know if we're going to see him in this basketball game tonight. We might, though. I'm just looking at the injury report. We might be getting the return of Isaiah Hartenstein. That'd be interesting if it's the case. Minnesota right now does have Rudy Gobert on the injury report. And Minnesota, by the way, has ended up is mystery team the right word? I don't think mystery team. I guess just surprise Giannis contender. We talked quite a bit yesterday about Giannis Antetokounmpo and his not trade request, but potential to be traded. It might just be in Minnesota's best interest to move off of the Greek Freak. And those numbers yesterday were positioning the incumbent as the favorite, which is Giannis staying in Milwaukee, but it had the Knicks and then the Warriors. That's flipped. Golden State now is at 25% on Kalshi, compared to the Knicks being at just 15%. Miami right in the mix at 14%. But it is now the Minnesota Timberwolves, that next team. I'm not going to pretend that 5% is a huge number, but it's more than Toronto, who we've heard a little bit could be interested. Philly, we've heard Giannis could be interested in Philly. And that might be the biggest news of all, actually, right? That the Giannis list, the preference sheet, may expand longer than just New York. And that could be super, super relevant. So these are all things to keep your eye on with the NBA. As far as the National Football League goes, yes, we talked a little bit off the top of just the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator move, but we are still tracking any potential Super Bowl movement right now between the Patriots and the Seahawks. 4.5 everywhere, and the total is now settled in at 45.5 everywhere. And I started today to do some of the, next level breakdowns, if you will, right? Like, I wonder, I'm sure everybody's kind of Super Bowl analysis process is different, right? And just kind of, how you layer hey, I'm looking into this market and such. And, the one thing that is still personally fascinating is how tricky this total feels to get a good read on. And I think it's because you can kind of super easily convince yourself of this game existing on an extreme end either way, right? Is you could see a world where New England has it going offensively, and thus, the favorite in Seattle has to match, and this game plays into the mid-50s, plays into the 60s. This is also two teams who have given up 5 combined touchdowns in 5 playoff games. So, 5 total, a touchdown a game, these defenses, right? So, Could this be an ugly 14-13 football game? Yeah, it could, right? We talk some, I know people still love their same game teasers, right? And you have to wonder, is it, now listen, it's funny, you say all this and then the game ends 24-21, right around the number. But it's going to be really fun, I think, just to see how people feel about this total as we get closer and closer. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come on back, expand on this slate tonight. It is a Game Time Decisions Thursday on SportsGrid.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who would thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stack enough wins to avoid a brutal matchup path, and when Giannis gets back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the games Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April if he's still a part of the team.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Okay, game time decisions here on a Thursday night. A slate where I think it is probably the basketball world that will attract most. I think it's a good opportunity to zoom in on Minnesota and Oklahoma City, where of this board tonight, maybe you'd argue Detroit and Phoenix, but I think the best game is that final primetime game between the Wolves and the Thunder, and kind of carry it over into the NBA's outright market, where this is a square off between the team booked as the comfortable favorite to win the whole thing, and then Minnesota, who I bet to win the NBA championship before the season. And Minnesota has had moments where you can tell there is a very high ceiling within this group, right? They had, handed OKC what was at the time just their third loss on the year. It was an excellent effort out of Anthony Edwards. And, Minnesota had really started to, I think, ascend a little bit, especially when they got themselves at, sitting at 27-14. Could they get on a bit of a run? What has really gone wrong for Minnesota is, I don't know, it's a little bit of A, it's a little bit of B, but I think it's very clear the Wolves believe there's enough in-house that it is worth investing in to try and take a step right now towards a championship. Because I actually believe that a lot of the teams around the NBA find the league to be a little bit more open than maybe even the odds would necessarily suggest. We know OKC, right? We know what that is. Okay. Denver sits in this no man's land plus 650, right? They are actually closer to the Thunder than the next team, that being the Detroit Pistons. And Denver, I know that they've done a nice job winning basketball games without Jokic, but we have not seen, this is kind of the biggest injury of Jokic's NBA career. I don't know what that's going to look like when he comes back. I mean, at some point he's going to be great, but it's different. But it's also just a very unhealthy team. Aaron Gordon has hurt his hamstring again and will now be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. So basically, you might not see Aaron Gordon for 2 months. You might not see Aaron Gordon again until the playoffs. Jamal Murray is on the injury report every night and has not been an incredibly healthy basketball player throughout his career. You could argue that's part of the reason why the Jokic Nuggets actually have not had more postseason success in this run out. Christian Brown has spent a lot of this year injured as well. The whole starting five has been very injured this season in Denver. And they are seen as like a clear-cut second, the only team you could possibly buy into. Then you get to the Pistons, Spurs, Knicks, Celtics, Rockets, Cavs grouping, which is all within a $5 tier of one another. And yet there's issues across the board. The Pistons have respectfully proven absolutely nothing. This core has not won a series, much less a conference together. The Knicks, to just keep it in the Eastern Conference, are desperate to get Giannis, but are also maybe equally as desperate to move off of Karl Anthony Towns. And it's hard to feel great about this team until the deadline passes, and I'm not sure you're going to feel great about the Knicks when the deadline does pass, because either they're going to still have Cat, or they'll have traded Towns for perhaps a less than exciting return. The Celtics got an update last night that over the next 5 years might be a good one, but for this year isn't, which is Jason Tatum's return is not inevitable this season and is considering sitting out until next year. Now, there's a whole laundry list of things that we can attack with that update. The reality is Jason Tatum pushing to be back this season as aggressively as he was after a torn Achilles was always, I felt, unwise. And I really raised the eyebrow at Boston for encouraging that push. This change, while Boston, by the way, is still stacking wins, suggests either someone told Tatum, hey, this is ridiculous, or there was a setback in his recovery. I don't know which one of those is more realistic, but I know which one would be more concerning, and it would be the setback. And the Cavs, while maybe are certainly playing better basketball, Mobley's injured right now, Garland's injured right now, and the core still is having a down season, and we have major questions about what their postseason ceiling actually is. Again, from this tier in the West, you have the Spurs and the Rockets, and San Antonio feels so young, right? And the Rockets, I don't know if they feel old, but they don't feel as threatening as they did 2 months ago. Look, it's a long way to say, oh, apparently nobody's really good. Maybe it's a really long way to say the Thunder are obviously going to win this championship. What I think it really does, though, is show why the upcoming NBA trade deadline is so important, because any team that gets a little bit better from an odds perspective might feel a lot better. And if any team actually brings Giannis into their building, they might end up the second favorite to win the championship Easily, any team acquiring Giannis at this point feels like they could have top 5 odds to win the championship. And that's not just the Knicks. Heck, they might move Miami into the top 5. Just because we're looking for teams, it feels like, to occupy those spaces. It's a fascinating time that we are in the NBA right now, and these markets are going to continue to shift. Let's attack the rest of the card here. College basketball, top 25 action, and some hockey next on SportsGrid.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who would thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path. And when Giannis gets back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the games Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first 2 people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, live with you here on SportsGrid. It is game time decisions. Just during the break, taking a peek over the Heisman Trophy odds. A lot of Darian Mensah buzz these days in the street. Just taking a peek. Just taking a peek. Josh Hoover, way too short of odds. That is Fernando Mendoza erasure. Just gonna call it like I see it. All right, let's put some picks on the board here. Let's go through the college, and then we'll actually, you know what? Let's do the best bets, and then we'll go through the college. All right. So, I mean, Chris and Sam, you already know they're betting hockey, right? You know that. These guys too. They gave me worse odds on mine. You see it all the time. It's a setup. Fixes in. That's all right. So, Yarnell goes with Zach Benson for a point. I gotta say, if we're following the Yarnell pick a saber, bet him every night trend, Benson is close to due. Probably this game or the next, you would imagine, right? Last time I said this, though, it worked for him, so I'll say it again. Root in no point tonight, and then happens over the weekend. Yarnell claims no credit when he gets the point against Montreal. I can't figure out if you bet a player for a point and the team scores 7 goals and he doesn't get a point. Is that a tough beat or a bad bet? I think that's debatable. Now, they did take away multiple points from him in the game, which is in the eye of the beholder, either gut-wrenching or hilarious. I'll let you be the judge. We'll see if Benson can get on the score sheet tonight. Chris is perhaps just accepting his destiny as a hockey guy because again, just every night gives out picks on the NHL slate, and they're straight bets. Predators, Devils, first period over the 1.5 goals. Loves it. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't mix in college hoops and things like that, but I don't know, man. Just there's something about Chris betting hockey. I feel like he really loves it. He likes the first period over in Devils Predators. So we'll root it in. I like something that I know they're rooting against in the back. Not right. And no reason to either. It's not like it's on their card the other direction. They just feel like they own the hockey slate. So they're trying to push me around a little bit. Rangers, Islanders, over the 5.5. Great bet. Great bet. At first glance, okay, most wheels would say, oh, they just played yesterday. Went over, right? And they would say, oh, you're trying to bet it again. That's a bad job. Clearly, it's an under. You got to zig on the zag. It was a 6.5 just yesterday in a game that had 7 goals with no goals in the third period. The 5.5 has adjusted to the wheels. You can identify them for yourself. And this is a clear as day over again. Groundhog Day style. Both these teams net 3. This game has 7, if not 8 goals in it. Cannot wait. By the way, also best bets. Devils, Predators to never see a goal in it. Game ends 0-0. And Zach Benson to retire during the second period's intermission. All right, so add those to my card. Freezer Burn bets. He likes the Nationals over the, what? Not that Washington? You're right. He likes the Huskies over the 69.5 team total. Rooted in. I like the look. I really do. I think Washington is the side in this game. The Huskies are not a team that has really been blown out, if you take a look. They have not been able to snag a marquee victory. Lost to Purdue at Purdue by 8. Lost by double digits, but only 10 to both Michigan and Nebraska. I know Michigan State rolled them. I do. It happens, though, right? They aren't of the caliber of these teams. But the Washington victory against Oregon was impressive. To beat them by 15, hold them to 57. And Illinois is not in a appetizing schedule spot off of that incredible win at Purdue. Washington looks like the side. So does Colorado, quite frankly, to me. CU has not lost by double digits this season. To be getting 17.5, I just ultimately backed off, though, because the home road of it all is important. It's relevant. And Iowa State in their most recent home game beat UCF by 30. I don't trust the Buffs enough despite the big number. We're going to go back to the NBA with the help of our guy, Brian Fonseca. Next, right here, it's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path, and when Giannis gets back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the game Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April, if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Game time decisions on SportsGrid. Let's get right into it. I'm excited for this. Brian Fonseca, one of my favorite people to talk to, especially around this time of year with the NBA. There's a lot of deadline stuff, Brian, a lot of rumors, different things I want to get to. So just curious on this Thursday night, anything that you're on your NBA card, betting-wise?
Not a thing, because I do not like this slate at all. I got to be
It's
honest
not good.
with you. I'll say this, though. While we're talking about it, there is one thing that it's the spread that's bothersome to me. I don't know if I can do, 3.5, 4.5 for the Hornets now against Dallas. But as we say on Buckets over at Action Network, because I'm turning this into a Hornets show, you can't, and this is a nod to Chris who's in our Discord, you can't spell no rest without Hornets. This team is 9-1. 9-1 against the spread on no rest this season. The best in the NBA. They just played last night and they beat Milwaukee. And also with a rest disadvantage, they're 8-2, third best against the spread in the NBA after Denver and Philly.
Can you help me out for a second? Because
I can try.
You talk to a lot of smart people. You yourself are one of them. Explain the Hornets to me like I'm 5. Why are they the best team in the NBA? I don't understand what's going on.
I hammered their over before the season started at 25.5 wins. We're 6 more wins away from that. They already have more wins than last season. So going into the year, I liked Con Knipple.
But they stunk to start the year.
Because they were injured. And the key thing is, with Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, and Con Knipple healthy this year, there's something like 16-11. It's ridiculous. Their net rating with those 3 plus Moussa Diabate and Miles Bridges, but especially with Moussa Diabate, ridiculous. It's one of the best lineups in the NBA in terms of just efficiency, in terms of their just net rating overall. And they have, and this was what I was saying even leading up to last year, but last year they had so many injuries. Like Brandon Miller missed 2/3 of the year, LaMelo Ball missed half the year. It was too much. I do think the infrastructure is right for once. I think Charles Lee's a good coach. They need to fix their defense. I don't think that's a him problem. I think it's a personnel problem, but it has gotten better this month. So they're finding some answers, and Moussa Diabate has a lot to do with that because he's a big and he's switchable and he rebounds like crazy. He could also finish around the rim, although he's not perfect at it. But I think the philosophy is there. They just need more of the personnel. They drafted well this past year, not just Con Knipple, but Sion James could play a little bit. Ryan Kalkbrenner could play a little bit. I think starting him right away was a little too fast, too soon, but he can be a player. And we'll see what happens with Liam McNeely, who they also got in the first round. They had 4 guys who can play, basically, 3 of whom they can play right now, at least in a contributing role. As far as the trade deadline goes, don't know. And as far as what's going to happen with their future, I mean, look, I took them over 25.5 wins, 30 plus, and a 900 or 800, I forget, plus 800 or plus 900 to make the play in. And if Milwaukee continues to slide, and now Atlanta, we'll see what happens. Chicago is the one who you probably really need in order to get that home. Yeah, Charlotte's been so much fun to watch. They're my favorite league pass team this season. I'm not even kidding.
No, I mean, I believe it. It's just jarring that this team isn't just like winning games; they're just like decimating playoff teams. Like the Thunder thing happened. It was like, oh, maybe the Thunder aren't good, and then it just like keeps on happening. Let me just stick with this then, because obviously again, I don't know, the NBA, they don't flex things. I don't know why. Like the other primetime game for some reason is Wizards Bucks instead of Knipple versus Cooper Flag.
Right.
Do you think Khan is a real threat to actually take the award off of Cooper?
I think he has to be because of the story. Like Charlotte's a better story than Dallas this year. Like not even close. And I do think if they get into the play-in and Cooper doesn't, like the playoffs won't matter too much for Rookie of the Year, but I have to entertain the possibility. I also think like I'm not completely out on the idea of VJ Edgecombe can win it either. So that's kind of the race to me for the most part, I think. And as a matter of fact, coming into the year, I felt like those were the best three rookies that I probably liked the most. Although I did like Derek Queen a lot. I was like, he's going to be either awesome or get somebody fired within the first few years of his career. And we've seen a little bit of both, but he's clearly talented. Yeah, I think Knipple's a real threat. I think ultimately Cooper does get it though. If you just look at, I mean, the way the odds have trended. I remember last I checked, it was like heavily back in Cooper Flag's favor.
Yeah.
It seems like we've kind of gotten regulated, I guess, to some extent, but I do think Con Knipple's a real threat, and I think less so VJ Edgecombe, but I'm not completely out on him either. I think if Con has a big stretch these last couple months, and Charlotte makes a real push, and they continue to they prove that what they're doing now is not just fake regular season BS, then yeah, there's a world where he could actually take it. I think it's going to be a competitive race.
All right, so I want to ask you about Giannis, obviously. We're, a week away from this getting really, really real, but also there are some people, I saw someone take a shot, and I know why they do it at ESPN, because ESPN's like, we have Giannis fatigue. I actually think that they are allowed to, and I think a lot of that is Giannis's fault, but I'm also really interested because he may actually get traded within the next week. Where are you right now on this Giannis situation?
Can you have Giannis fatigue and still care about where he goes? Because that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's more so like, you ever seen The Wire?
Not enough of it. I started it and then I got sidetracked, and now I feel like I have to start it over from the beginning.
It's Marlo Stanfield's one of the important characters in The Wire, and when you're introduced to him in season 3, somebody has one of his guys has like a gun to somebody else's head on top of his car, and he's basically asked him like, should I pull the trigger right here? And Marlo's like, do it or don't. I have some place to be. That's where I'm at with Giannis. Like that's where I'm at with Giannis right now. It's like, just do it or don't. Put in the request, force your way out, do something. Now, today, I'm a little bit more on the side of, I think this happens by the deadline than I was 48 hours ago, because there's more of a push in the public now from what feels like his representation through Shams, and also the tidbit Tom Havishel dropped about the contract extension is an important one. He gets a lot of money if he gets traded now, because of the deal he could sign in October that won't be available if he's not on the team for at least 6 months by that point. So it's either you stay with Milwaukee or you get traded now to get that massive extension, which is for like $70 million a year for 4 seasons.
Yeah. God, I love the extensions. They're going to be so fun to watch pour in. So then who to you right now, or is there an obvious favorite to actually get Giannis?
The Golden State stuff is surprising. I think the Knicks should be the most desperate, but they don't have the ammo in a true sweepstakes. And if this is a true sweepstakes, they have to get really creative because they don't have the picks or the young players. Knicks fans don't want to give up Deuce McBride, but I'm here to tell you, if you're getting Giannis,
oh my gosh,
Deuce, come on, Deuce is great. He's your best plus minus guy, but let's be serious. Milwaukee, if I'm like, there's no one on your team I want more than him because of the rebuild situation that we're going to be in. in a catastrophic manner because of all the dead money we have from the Damian Lillard contract that we waived and stretched. It's going to be $21 million for the next 4 seasons after this year. Dead money on your books. Yes, Deuce McBride is going to be in that deal, and he's not going to be alone either. That being said, Miami's got a little bit of a package to trade. Khalil Ware, Kasper Siakachonis. You got the matching salary with Hero. You could use Rozier. You could use Wiggins. I think they should trade Wiggins regardless because you could get something for him. They have picks. They have multiple firsts. You have more picks later. But if you need to do this now, Miami can do it. But I think if Houston's willing to trade Alperen Sengun or Amen Thompson, I think they have the big joker.
Amazing. Awesome, Brian. Appreciate it. As always, we'll be right back. More Game Time decisions.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who would thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path. And when Giannis is back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the game Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Game Time decisions back right here on a Thursday night, and the hits keep coming because we've got Doug Kazarian with us now. And Doug, it's great to talk to you again. As you know, of course, that Super Bowl push is coming. We'll talk a little bit about the big game. But on this Thursday night, anything NBA, college sticking out to you?
Well, there's a few interesting games, at least from a fan perspective. You have Michael Porter Jr. back in Denver for the first time since the trade. And from a betting angle standpoint, the narrative has actually proved to be a decent wager. Now, Miles Turner and the Bucks went to Indiana last year, like early this season, and smacked Indiana. It was a big win for them. I don't think the Nets are a bet-on team. You want to take the 7 because I don't think they're rallying around it like the Turner one. But I think Porter's prop of over 3.5 made threes is interesting. First of all, he's averaging about 10 attempts this entire month, so he's a gunner to begin with. And we saw Klay Thompson go back to the Bay Area and bomb threes. So I think it's a good opportunity to apply the narrative to wagering. Now, you need 4 made threes. You don't need like 2 or 3, but I still think there's a little bit of line value. It's like minus 105. So that's the one bet I have so far in the NBA. I also like the Hornets. I know you were talking about them in the previous segment. I just think if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And the key thing for me here is that Najee Marshall's out. So you are obviously have AD out. So yes, Cooper Flagg's in, but this Hornets team, healthy, has a lot clicking. So I'm going to lay the 3 on the road, but proceed with caution. They've won 4 straight, covered 3 of them. You can't win every game, but I do think it's a bet on. Both teams played yesterday. I just don't think Dallas is very good, especially without Najee Marshall.
Yeah, I think that is totally fair. I will say on the Michael Porter Jr. piece, and I think it's a strong angle, I occasionally have massive regret that I couldn't find a market for Porter to lead that team in scoring, because a lot of the preseason stuff said it was going to be Cam Thomas, and that was just always crazy. Right. I also think there's I wish some of the pure Jokic people would be willing to have a conversation about how good Michael Porter Jr. looks, because everyone was convinced that he was a sieve awful. He was only good because of Jokic, and that the trade was a route Denver's direction, and basically Denver would have to attach several picks to get Porter Jr. back for Cam Johnson. And oh, by the way, Denver can still win some games without Jokic. And Doug, I was told that absolutely is no way ever possible. And it turns out it is possible. Jokic is actually not playing with 5th graders.
It's a great point, because extending that, KCP, they wanted to get rid of him in Orlando, so they had to attach Desmond Bane. They're like, all right, we'll trade you Desmond Bane, but you got to take KCP too, because they thought they had buyer's remorse because they got him when he was playing alongside Jokic. And same for even Bruce Brown. He wasn't a good fit anywhere else, so they brought him back to Denver. So that's a great point to to what you brought up, because Jokic is getting all this, praise for all of this, but you're right. Porter is a solid player. He's not the best defender. He's had some back issues, but Cam Johnson's been, hasn't worked out, let's say the least. So it has certainly benefited Brooklyn in this trade.
Yeah, 100%. Just on the college side of it, Doug, I just think, with the break in the NFL, obviously just the 1 game left, I think people are starting to add NBA, college, maybe some NHL to their regular cards. And sometimes in the way you mentioned with the Hornets, right, it can be a season of runs. You can kind of latch on to a team. Is there a team or two in the college game that you're drawn to right now?
So I laid it with Michigan at Oregon a couple Saturdays ago, and laid 19, and they were down 1 at half and won by 11. Yeah. I think something's wrong with this Michigan team. It's funny. I've watched them a bunch this year, Kevin, but I haven't watched them when they won by 40. Those few games early in the season. So every time I watch this team, I'm like, why are they the favorite? Why are they 3-1 to win it all? What am I missing? So they haven't covered 7 straight games. Now, a couple of those were right down bad beats and things like that by a half point or 1. But for the most part, they are extremely overpriced. So I think something's wrong with them. Yes, they have complex offense that when it's clicking, it's really good. Mara's big down low. The guards can push the pace, but I just think they're getting everyone's best shot. And yes, maybe they're battle tested come tournament time, but I don't think it's the Michigan Invitational or even the Arizona Invitational for that matter, as Charles Barkley alluded to yesterday. I think I like Sparty a lot as a home dog tomorrow. I think they're going to get out and run and get some easy baskets, and they'll defend, and it's at the Breslin Center. So I know it's a kiss of death to say the wrong team's favored when you like the dog, but I do think they should be -1.5 and not Michigan. I mean, look, Nebraska was missing 2 of their top 7 players.
Yep.
And came down to the wire, and that game line got steamed to 11.5. So stop betting on Michigan. They failed to cover 7 straight. There's a lot to like, and I like their coach, but the market's too high on them. Sparty should be favored tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that is totally fair. We've also just seen the value of home court. I mean, this would suggest Michigan on a neutral is maybe 8 or 9 points better. Just the way home court is, it's a little interesting that the number still shades Michigan's direction. So, Doug, with only a little bit of time left here, I'm curious, have you bet anything yet for Super Bowl 60? Is there anything that's standing out to you early with the Seahawks-Patriots numbers?
No, I went down to the Westgate yesterday. Got to see a lot of other sharps and pro bettors and all the whatnot, and just sort of aggregating and extracting information. We all kind of the consensus that might be a low scoring game. I think it could be a 23-13 type game. Both coaches want to lean on their defense, protect their quarterbacks a little bit. My initial thought was Seattle's going to roll, but I will say we've seen this a million times in sports. 2 weeks of glazing Sam Darnold, right? He's better off flying under the radar. All the attention to Matthew Stafford being the question mark, and just having to be a a glorified game manager, which is fine. That's what you need with that kind of defense and those kind of playmakers. I'm a little concerned it's 2 weeks of, oh my gosh, he's MVP type. So that would be my only concern for Seattle, but they don't do anything bad. Like, they have no giant weaknesses. There's nothing to exploit. So I think it'll be a clean game, relatively low scoring, very well coached. Both guys completely outcoached their opponent in the conference championship game. Yeah, that needs to be said. Sean Payton, Sean McVay got absolutely worked from the headset.
I think it's a really good point, and we've seen this where the narrative that enters one game gets disproven, and then it bites everybody in the butt in that next game. Doug, awesome as always. Doug Kazarian, fantastic stuff. We'll get you the best bets before the top of the hour next right here on SportsGrid.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path, and when Giannis is back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the game Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April, if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Chris is telling me that all the cool Super Bowl stuff's out on FanDuel, but I don't know where to find it. So we're gonna do one of these, like, listen, you know when someone like doesn't know how to work a computer and you got to walk them through step by step? That's where we are right now, because I'm being told that all the cool stuff, the Super Bowl only stuff, is out in the mix, and I'd like to know where it is. We're gonna get you best bets. Don't you worry about it. This guy, Chris, man, he's like, mobile only. This guy, man. Really? Super Bowl props. But I'm seeing just like a list of stuff. Would I go to more wagers? That does nothing. And then what? And then what, folks? We're trying to help people. We're trying to help people out there. Don't worry about it. Everyone, all right, we're going to send Chris onto the scene, okay? I mean, that's all we can do. He's telling me that they have the passer rating prop that we talked about yesterday, total players to catch a reception. All right, so let's get into these best bets here, because I'm just going to call it like I see it, okay? The best bet graphic should actually read Islanders, Rangers over 5.5 for me, and then for Chris and Sam, it should each say under. They are mocking me. during each segment, during each commercial, okay? I do not know where these two have gained the confidence in their NHL betting to speak to me like this and the way that they are, all right? One of them is still trying to figure out who the next Jets GM is going to be. All right, look at this. Where did he find this? He brings in, look at this. Just put me up. Look at this. Do I look like the oldest man of all time holding a laptop this close to my face? What is this? What tab is he in? Specials. All right, I mean, here we go. Now, where is the total receptions? The passer rate, I feel so old. Minus 142 Darnold. Honestly, it's not a bad number. It's not a bad number. We're not betting that. Where's the to catch a pass stuff? Total yardage of all Patriot. Josh Dobbs to play a snap, plus 880. Not a bad bet. Not a bad bet. Not a bad bet. Honestly, they might just have a Josh Dobbs package in, quite frankly. I wouldn't rule it out. You know what I mean? First player to record a point, not awful, not amazing. Look at this. Total number of first downs. I'm going to have to lock Chris in a room and make him cap that. And he can't come out until he's got at least 6 plays on this card. Total combined rushing yards. Look at this. I'm getting a headache, quite frankly. All right, look at this. 4-screen Kev. So now we're locked in. So Chris likes Predators, Devils, first period over. Rooting against it. Rooting against it. Gotta root against it. Yarnell Benson to record a point. Root against it. Root against it. Josh Doan. We're rooting him in. Only option. Kings, Mooney line. Come on. Kevin Fla. Come on, what is this guy's name? Fiala. Let's get a goal for him on the Kings side of it. It's too much NHL. It's really too much NHL. They tricked me. They knew that if they bullied my best bet, I would talk NHL. Unbelievable. AJ likes I keep wanting to say Nationals. Washington Huskies over the 69.5 team total against Illinois. That is one of your 2 games tonight featuring a top 25 team. In fact, a top 10 team. Illinois right now ranked 9th in the AP poll. Iowa State is about to tip off against Colorado at home as a 17.5-point favorite. I would look towards CU in that game. They have not yet lost by double digits. This is a major step up for them on the road. They have played some good teams. They have played Kansas. They have played Texas Tech, and both of those were closer games, but they were at home. So it's going to be interesting. It is a relevant sample size as well because in about a week and a half, this team has a double up at Texas Tech and at BYU. So I think we're going to learn a lot about Colorado, and you might think, who cares? But when you're betting into Big 12 basketball, these teams at the bottom who catch all of these points actually become super relevant and can kind of help you fill out the card. NBA-wise, there are 2 games tipping off at 7, 10. Sixers, Kings, and the Bucks and the Wizards. And who knows, these teams might actually be connected because apparently Giannis is open to going to the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know why the Sixers wouldn't do that. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. I mean, wait, is there going to be a healthier Joel Embiid season than the one you have right now? Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. Certainly more NBA around the corner here on SportsGrid.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who would thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path, and when Giannis is back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the game Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
GameTime decisions live on a Thursday night. And listen, it's always good to be a believer in anything you'd like, including Jesus or Sweatpants Jesus. SPJ joins us now. You can find him on Twitter at Sweatpants Jesus. He is the head of content over at Your Betting News, does a fantastic job, works alongside Adam Kaufman, who, of course, all of you here know at SportsGrid. And SPJ and Adam are going to be taking San Francisco by storm with their Super Bowl coverage. So, SPJ, we appreciate you joining us here on GTD.
Yeah, man, great to hang out with you. Obviously, working with Adam's kind of but it's always a good time hanging out with Mr. Kaufman, and we're super stoked to be going out to Santa Clara next week, man. So thanks for having me on the show. I've got some NBA to discuss with you guys tonight. However, you guys were having some fun with some Super Bowl props, and I actually just talked about it on our show on the Betting News Network. So I wanted to throw this out there before we get to the fun on the hardwood. There is a prop out there right now that you can bet for either a defense or a special teams touchdown to be scored in the Super Bowl. Plus 200. There's 4 of the last 10 Super Bowls have had a defensive or special teams touchdown. And with these two teams, obviously, very good units on both sides. You got Rashid Shaheed returning punts, obviously, and returning kickoffs for the Seattle Seahawks. And with how these defenses have been playing as well, maybe you get a strip sack. Maybe you get Sam Darnold having a case of the yips once again and throwing a pick six. So I think you're getting nice value at the plus 200 for a special teams or a defensive touchdown, just to get the vibes moving.
Listen, I don't hate the look. I will say, just with special teams, Shaheed of it all, every year everyone lays a lot of juice on the opening kickoff to be a touchback. I would be horrified if Seattle gets ball first. I am pretty sure if Shaheed, he could be 10 yards deep. If he touches it, he is going to try and recreate that Devin Hester moment and take it 100%. Out and cost everyone hundreds of dollars 6 seconds into that football game, which is going to be interesting. So let's get over to the NBA. I know that is usually, where you're locking in. This Sixers-Kings game is about to tip off, and you've got some action in it.
Yeah, man. Usually props for me, and I talked to your producer before the show. I don't really bet unders that much, and apparently you guys don't either. So these are all over for me in the prop department. First one, like you mentioned, in Philadelphia, in the city of brotherly love, and I'm going on the other side. I know it's a big spread with the 11.5-point spread, but I'm going back to my Lithuanian brother, Domantas Sabonis, back in the starting lineup for the Sacramento Kings, over 16.5 rebounds and assists. Now, I know it's a little bit scary to take a guy returning from injury, but he just played 33 minutes in their last game back in the starting lineup, like I mentioned. And this guy has absolutely cooked the 76ers in previous matchups. 3 straight triple-doubles against this team. Obviously, we all know as fellow followers of the NBA that when Sabonis is cooking, a triple-double is always on the table. Last game, he flirted with one as well. He had 7 assists in that game, too, but 14 potential assists. That's the number I always like to look at with these guys, especially the dribble handoff type players and the Jokic's and the Sabonis's. So I think this 16.5 line, we're still getting a discount. I think the books haven't quite brought it up to that level where it should be in the 18.5 range now that he's back playing full minutes. And if you're frisky like me and you like throwing around maybe a little cup of coffee or a quarter unit, however you like to bet, the triple-double is plus 1,000. So I did sprinkle on that as well. But I love the 16.5 rebounds and assist line for Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think I think someone I know was trying to get involved with Sabonis for the King of the Court the other night because he can fill out the stat sheet. I do wonder what percentage of our audience just found out Sabonis was back healthy right now, because the Sacramento Kings are having a very, very fake season, and nobody knows when any of their guys are actually going to be out there and available on the court. Not as much the case when you look at Miami, Chicago, though it's an injury report you have to check regularly, and it often features Tyler Hero. On the Chicago side, by the way, it does feature Josh Giddey tonight. Bulls Heat in Chicago. What do you like here, SPJ?
So I'm actually going on the Miami side on a back-to-back here, but I don't really care. Norman Powell is expected to play in this game, was probable. So looking like he's going to suit up once again. As you mentioned, Tyler Hero on the shelf. Josh Giddey's not going to be playing for the Bulls, as they're also on a back-to-back, still returning from his minutes restriction with his injury situation too. But I like this game because of the total. You got two teams that like to run. You got two teams, defense optional. So I'm going with Andrew Wiggins over 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. This line has bumped up to 23.5 since I booked it a little earlier. I still like it there. Obviously prefer the 22.5, so shop around as always. But Andrew Wiggins kind of been cooking for this Heat lineup as he's been inserted into the starting lineup. Kind of a six-man to start the season, but with the injuries they've been dealing with down in Miami, Wiggins has been great. He's hit this 22.5 line in 9 straight games, and for some reason, he really loves playing the Chicago Bulls. He's hit this line in 4 straight games against the Chicago Bulls. 3 of those were with the Miami Heat. He even hit it once back when he was playing with the Warriors. So I think Wiggins is going to get involved on the glass. Lastly, too, the Bulls, as I mentioned, defense optional, bottom 5 in all statistical categories, points allowed, rebounds allowed, assists allowed. This game should be a track meet, should be fun to watch if you like just watching negative defense and a lot of scoring. And I think that Andrew Wiggins is going to be involved.
I'm excited to see if Miami actually even tries to pull the trigger on this Giannis deal, because, look, they really should be ashamed of themselves for what they did in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, all in all. It's an open Eastern Conference. They could have had him for next to nothing. And now they're trying to be like, hey, we're willing to trade Khalil Ware in a Giannis deal. Oh, great. The guy that Spoelstra hates and never wants on the floor, you're willing to trade for Giannis. Awesome. But they do have, like, if they get Giannis in, they have guys. And Wiggins is actually, like, one of those guys. Now, I don't know if the money-wise he'd have to be in the deal, but if he's not, like, there are guys in Miami that could actually make that team. Again, if he lands there, SPJ, like, I do think Miami would be a real contender.
Oh, 100%. Actually, so just to kind of bring this up here, I made a little bit of a hot take, and I want to get your thoughts on it since we're talking about the Giannis thing. This is totally off the cuff, but I actually really like Giannis to go to the Detroit Pistons. A little bit of a dark horse. You pair him up with Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. The money makes sense. You move the Tobias Harris contract. You could get Jaden Ivey out of there as well. Maybe a Ron Holland or a Beef Stew goes in there as well. Keep Giannis in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, going to the Heat, like you mentioned as well, makes a lot of sense too. But I actually kind of like the Pistons move. I know a lot of people have been floating around a lot of different things on the timeline talking about where Giannis might go. But yeah, Pistons for me feels like a little bit of a sexy spot.
I don't mind the call out because, again, if you're Detroit, I don't know why you wouldn't be interested. This is a team who, despite the expectations, have the 3rd best odds to win an NBA championship. They look like the best team in the Eastern Conference, and the caveat's going to be, yeah, but they've never done it before. Add a Finals MVP, the whole thing changes. And they will go under 10-1 in terms of title price. So from that end of it, I totally understand what you're saying. There are only 2 teams right now under 10-1 to win a title. It's OKC. It's Denver. Denver tonight brings Michael Porter Jr. back into their building, and you're going to get involved.
Yeah, if you know me, I'll get short and sweet with this one. This is kind of just a narrative bet. And I don't know if you like to bet narratives, but I'm all about it. Give me Michael Porter Jr. over 32.5 points and rebounds, going back to his former stomping grounds. He obviously has already played the Denver Nuggets earlier this season in Brooklyn, but now he gets a chance to go into Mile High and play against his former squad. They're dealing with a lot of injuries on that side. Still, Nikola Jokic is on the shelf. Obviously, Aaron Gordon announced today that he's going to be out for another 4 to 6 weeks with that hamstring problem. I don't care. I think MPJ is going to come out tonight. Obviously, he's super heavily involved in the offense. This is just an opportunity for him to go into the former building, the team that shipped him out, and to show them what they're missing. Double-double in his last game, too, so I wanted to rope in the rebounds. But give me Michael Porter Jr. over 32.5 and walk with me down narrative street.
All right, let me make sure we get in, though. You already mentioned the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, and actually a sneaky pretty good game tonight at Phoenix, who's having a heck of a season. What do you like in that matchup?
Yeah, I really love Cade Cunningham here. I mean, the Phoenix Suns have been one of the surprises of the NBA. So this is actually going to be, as you mentioned, a really, really fun basketball game tonight. But I really love the Cade matchup here. Jalen Duren absolutely destroys Williams on the other side. So I'm looking to kind of take advantage of that. Cade Cunningham over 8.5 assists, -130. Paid a little bit of juice here. But this line is just too low. He's had 11 assists in back-to-back games, but this is how he matches up with the Phoenix Suns. 11 assists in 3 straight games. He had a 13-assist game as well with 15-plus potentials in those games. This is going to be a close game. If you haven't watched either one of these teams a lot this season, this could be a playoff preview in this game as well. And I think the Cade's are going to have a lot to say here. So 8.5 feels too low. A little double-double sprinkle for some plus money feels nice too.
All right, fantastic. SPJ, man, we really appreciate getting you in the mix. And again, over on Twitter, at Sweatpant Jesus. I don't think you will struggle to figure out who exactly you're looking for there. Head of content over at the Betting News Network does a fantastic job. Be on the lookout for that Super Bowl coverage with Kaufman as well. We'll be right back here on Game Time Decisions.
Giannis Antetokounmpo's next team. Who would thought we'd ever be saying that? The guy should be minted in Milwaukee and never want to leave. The only problem is they can't surround him with the talent that he wants. Stays with Milwaukee or retires. He's actually trading at a 71% chance here. The favorite outside of Milwaukee, it's the New York Knicks at 15%.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Stacking up wins to avoid a brutal matchup path. And when Giannis gets back full burst, they got to get him back on the floor and back on the floor healthy. The Bucks season won't be defined by the game Giannis misses. It'll be defined whether Milwaukee protects him from himself and gets him back in April if he's still a part of the team.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
ESPN are not going to take shots or criticize him. People on Fox are not going to take shots and criticize him. But McVay had a bad game. Sean Payton had a bad game. And that's just a fact. Like, when they go back and review what took place in key spots of that game, Sean Payton cost the Broncos points and Sean McVay cost the Rams points. Those are the first two people that should be blamed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Game time decisions here on SportsGrid. Some of these slates are off and running, so we'll be tracking all of that action. But we are also tracking some of the NFL news, and to help us do that is NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Some big news out of Philadelphia. Cap, they finally got themselves an offensive coordinator. What can you let everybody know about this situation?
Kevin, if you would have asked me a week ago if Sean Mannion could be their offensive coordinator, I'm like, where are you hearing this? There's no chance of that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say 2 days ago, I got a very good tip that this thing's got a real chance of happening. He's super smart. He's a McVay guy. He was drafted by the Rams. He also was with Kevin O'Connell. He's going to run his version of it. It's a fascinating situation. When they made the announcement, and they put his picture up or whatever they did, on Twitter. I was just like, this is Sean Mannion. Wow. I just remember covering him for the draft. And Kevin, this is, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I'm going to give it to you straight as I always do here in SportsGrid. We try to help people learn the game. Guy's only coached 2 years. He retired like David Blau did, who's now the OC of the Commanders. after the 23 season. He was an offensive assistant, which is a general job for an entry-level job in 2024 with the Packers. They thought so much of him, they gave him a major promotion to be their quarterback's coach. And then you see the Eagles knew about him, very well known in the coaching community. He's one of these up-and-comers like Davis Webb, by the way, who the Eagles also had interest in. Davis Webb, by the way, is going to be a head coach someday. You could mark that down. But Sean Mannion, what a great football player, is a quarterback in the National Football League, but they're going to run a West Coast offense. He's going to bring a lot of McVay's concepts in. I would expect, Kevin, I don't do percentages, you're going to see more pre-snap motion than the Eagles have done under Jeff Stoutland, the O-line coach, and with Hurts. They don't usually run a lot. It's very basic motion. You could expect to see more. I'm fascinated because this is a true West Coast offense. They haven't really run that. And you and I have talked about this during the regular season and the playoffs with Jalen Hurts, this particular quarterback, not big on throwing with timing. So this is what I would encourage fans to do. Be careful what you read on social media when it doesn't look good in the offseason, if that happens. Give Mannion and Hurts time to get together. They've never worked together before. This is going to be something that Jalen has not played in before, a true West Coast offense. It's just going to take some time, but it could be a beautiful thing, man, because you see, not that I'm saying he's Sean McVay, but when he signed his contract with the Rams back in 2016, I think he might have been 30 years old. Then a couple months later, he turned 31. By the way, he's now 40 years old. It's crazy how time flies. People thought, and yours truly, I'll raise my hand, Kevin, I thought the Rams were out of their mind. Like, what are they, like, this is, I know he'd been a coordinator before that, but he's just too young. This is ridiculous. So I learned my lesson. You got to trust the Eagles, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, who made the call, Jeffrey Lurie, who's very involved, the owner. He wants innovation. He wants forward thinking. The Eagles offense, in terms of the passing game, this past season was prehistoric.
So I'm curious. You mentioned like how Hurts will have to make an adjustment, right? And I think that's totally reasonable. This feels like a hire that would be outside of the expected Sirianni network. And there's been so much talk about full autonomy over the offense. But they've now hired a guy with not a huge, resume, right? Not a lot of experience. What is the comfortability for Sirianni in this situation?
So my understanding, Kevin, is when he came in 2021, he wanted to run more of a timing-based offense. And he saw early on that it was just not going to work with Hurts, so they scaled things back. In fact, if you remember, Kevin, he gave up the play calling around mid-season to Shane Steichen to save their season. And Steichen did a great job of, hey, this is what we have to do to make him comfortable. The next season, it became more of a vertical offense, not really timing-based. And then Steichen leaves. Brian Johnson, 23 OC, fired. Kellen Moore does a good job, not a great job. The passing game for about 2 months was dreadful in 24. It got hot at the right time. Then Kevin Patullo was removed, though I am told that he has an offer. He has an offer is a misnomer. He's got the ability to stay. If he's not going to have anything to do with the play calling, he's going to be more of a senior offensive assistant, more of a Sirianni guy because he knows Nick, and they're very close friends. More of a chief of staff guy, but he's going to have no interference and no input when it comes to the offense. It's not his offense if he does stay.
I'm curious. This may be too in the weeds for some, but I guess an Eagles fan like myself would appreciate this. Then the infrastructure of it all, right? Where would Mannion look for support, if you will, right? Does he get to bring in anyone else underneath him in this situation?
Yeah, the belief is he'll bring. They're not bringing 8 new coaches, but Kellen Moore was able to bring in a couple. In fact, he brought his right-hand man in.
Okay.
Doug Nussmeier, his son Garrett is a quarterback, from LSU, who's going to be in this draft. But he'll be able to bring some guys, but it's not like you're going to fire 8 guys. So no, but it's a good quote, Kevin. That's a bit. What you brought up is a really astute point because I know you're super plugged into the Eagles' issues and challenges.
Mm-hmm.
This has been sort of like, what offense can you run that Hurts can handle? What with Jeff Stoutland, their offensive line coach, is phenomenal. Like, what will match him? But they got to stop thinking like that. Stop catering to people. You got to be forward thinking here. That that pass game last season was mostly atrocious, man. That's the bottom line.
I saw a stat, Cap, that it was the most hitch routes run in the NFL postseason, and the Eagles have still ran significantly more than the Patriots, who have played 3 games compared to Philly's 1. I might as well, Cap, I don't know if you have time for another segment after this, or there's a lot of different things in the NFL, but I wanted to ask you, there's been some Fangio stuff bubbling. Like there was anything?
Nothing that I've heard that I'd be shocked if he retired.
Yeah.
There's no sense that the season that would be a stunner of mine. And by the way, Joe Casper, who just got promoted from safeties coach to DB's coach, he is just whenever Vic decides to retire, the belief around the league is that Joe Casper will have a real chance to be his successor.
Okay, so that's going to be interesting if they've kind of already have all of that sorted. I've slightly wondered if, and I agree it'd be a stunner, if Fangio retired, does somehow Philly give Jim Schwartz another out of that whole Cleveland situation? Again, who knows? We'll be right back. More Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Just the fear that we had going on. And the players obviously were paid $10,000 to $30,000 per fix. But what this does is it hits at the core of the identity in the sport, especially in the modern day betting era.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, my co-host on Game Time Decisions, Josh Doan, is featured so much. And I also want to say this basically now confirms we are the premier Josh Doan network in all of sports media. No way no other show mentions Josh Doan as much as this one. Is that a success? Is that a failure? I don't know, but I think it's true.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But I remember being 16 in high school, being in my school uniform, long pants and a tie, and I deadlifted 200 kgs, so that's 440 pounds. So yeah, so that was I actually have a video of it, so it might get leaked somewhere. Someone might be able to find that one.
We might need to get that one to B-roll the show with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, Game Time Decisions. NFL insider Adam Kaplan, kind enough to give us a couple of extra moments here, because I do want to ask Cap about Cleveland. The Schwartz piece of it is not irrelevant, right? But Monken certainly seemed to be a bit of an upset. A sneaky domino is the Giants don't have an offensive coordinator. They were going to hire Monken. Everyone knows that, too. So, Cap, what have you made of everything going on in Cleveland?
Stunner. I'm going to admit it. Everything I'd been told from very strong sources with that Monken. Now I know, over the final 48 hours, he came on and he Jimmy Haslam in particular. I know that they were very impressed. Ownership and Andrew Berry is on board with it. It's just didn't see it happening. I'll be honest with you. He was a head coach in college. He actually had one decent year at Southern Miss, but Schwartzy I thought had a real chance. Jim Schwartz had a chance to get it. Jim. I know the reports are out there. I know what happened in Buffalo when he left there because he couldn't run Rex Ryan's defense, and he knew he had to go, and he kind of let them know what he thought of how things were done there when they were struggling. Jim's very opinionated, but a brilliant coach. And oh, by the way, for the people asking about Philly, he doesn't run Fangio. Like if Vic shocked the world and decided to retire all of a sudden, again, there's no one believes that. But if it happened, he can't run Fangio. They'd have to. Vic. In fact, Jim. One of the things I've learned about him, he runs that wide 9, the 43 front, where the edges get up the field. They play the run on the way of the quarterback. That's all he can run. He's great. He's a great coach. I mean, he's a phenomenal one of the top defensive minds in football. But he can't run anything. He can't run a 34 Fangio, so it would never work.
Yeah. They've changed it. Again, I don't know. Here's what, you know what? I'll get into it in a minute. Okay. But just because I think the Fangio stuff is also silly. And
there's a lot of bad stuff out there, by the way.
Yeah, I think this is what I will say, and I'm not just saying this because he's here. I think we're very fortunate to have Adam Kaplan here during times like this. Cap, we appreciate it. I know we'll check in this weekend.
You got it.
Awesome stuff. NFL Insider, Adam Kaplan. Now, here's what I'll say, okay? Adam Schefter dropping, I don't know, maybe something next week in Philly. Come on, man. Really? Really? That's for like low-level, not actually reporters, but just like high-ish profile Twitter accounts to pretend they heard something. What is that, man? What is that? You're Adam Schefter. So if nothing happens in the next week, then what? Like, he didn't get it wrong. Like, people are like, oh, and now Garofalo's like, I don't know, Fick almost fired last year, if he did, if he didn't. It's almost February. The Eagles don't know if their defensive coordinator is going to be back. That feels a little crazy. That feels like that should then be a story. Then report on that. Like, you're not like fly high Eagle guy 26. You're not Elliott Shore Parks. You're Adam Schefter. You're Mike Garofalo. Report on the thing then, man. Like, do the thing. It's a little weird. It is. It's a little childish. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. Here's another thing. In the back, you can hear him rooting in. Save it! It's Rangers-Islanders game. I don't know. Is this computer slow? It says scoreless. It says scoreless. It says scoreless. Preds got a goal up early. Need another before this period's over. Good guy Kev, always rooting in the fellas. Always rooting in the fellas. Buffalo's got a goal. This Benson, not involved. Oh, man. This guy's, I mean, is he even on the team? Really? Does this Zach Benson even play puck? That's what they're asking. That's what they're asking. Zach Benson Boone. What are we going to do, man? This guy played 17 minutes last night. He's getting, come on now, he's getting Precious Achua level minutes. You want me to root this guy in? That's unbelievable, man. That's unbelievable. Crazy what happens when the shoe's on the other foot, isn't it? It's nuts. By the way, please edit all clips where I said I thought Colorado could be the side and pump out all the clips where I said I'm not betting that game. Iowa State was up 30 to 31 to 5, I think. That was something. Mike Blewett's next. Cannot wait. You're welcome.
Just the fear that we had going on. And the players obviously were paid $10,000 to $30,000 per fix. But what this does is it hits at the core of the identity in the sport, especially in the modern day betting era.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
basically my co-host on Game Time Decisions, Josh Doan, is featured so much. And I also want to say this basically now confirms we are the premier Josh Doan network in all of sports media. No way no other show mentions Josh Doan as much as this one. Is that a success? Is that a failure? I don't know, but I think it's true.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
But I remember being 16 in high school, being in my school uniform, long pants and a tie, and I deadlifted 200 kgs, so that's 440 pounds. So yeah, so that was I actually have a video of it, so it might get leaked somewhere. Someone might be able to find that one.
We might need to get that one to B-roll the show with.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, man. Game Time Decisions, the show that is prepared to rank head coaches based on if I can or cannot pronounce their names. And people wonder why I'm high on this Joe Brady hire. They also wonder why I'm just high on Mike Blewett in general. I mean, that's right down the middle, man. I don't think I've ever once said it wrong. It sounds like I'm definitely going to say it wrong over the next 30 minutes. Mike, great to see you, my man. Does an excellent job, everybody knows, hosting our NFL in-game live coverage. Mike, on the call for the Super Bowl, I presume?
Yes, sir. Myself and Scott Wetzel live and in color for the Super Bowl. Excited about it. Second year in the chair for the big game.
It's going to be a really fun one to discuss. And Mike, there's a lot of different things that we can get to, but I'm interested in starting kind of with the Super Bowl here. A 4.5 point spread, total kind of settling in at 45.5 as we, are talking about, 10 days out, I think. What are you most drawn to right now for Super Bowl 60?
Good question. This is the time of year, I've told you this before. By the way, sidebar, I'm hearing some things about Philly. I don't know exactly what they are. I'm just hearing some things. Maybe we'll hear next week about things in Philly. I just thought you should know that.
You. No, thank
you.
The
audience should know that.
It turns out Mike Blewett as helpful as Adam Schefter on stories. So, you know what? Can't say I'm surprised.
Can't say what it is. So I try to block out a lot of people's opinions about the Super Bowl until I definitively formulate mine. But I'm getting a little bit of vibes about the Rams-Bengals Super Bowl, where we had this same spread, 4.5, and thought it was going to be a tight game. One of the rare Super Bowl games in which the victorious team did not cover. So the Bengals covered that Super Bowl by losing a tight game, ended up being 24-21. I could see something in that range where we have a tight game late. Clearly, people have jumped on the Drake May rushing props bandwagons. I think they should. 8.5 is pretty high, but he cleared it last week. I think it's very clear that they're going to have to utilize his legs to be in this game. So those props are starting to elevate. So I jump on them sooner rather than later because they're not going to come down. So if you like Drake May to run the ball a bunch, I think you get on those props now.
So the one of the storylines in this game, Mike, that is something you and I have talked about for quite a few years now is Sam Darnold and the story that he is. And the reality is the NFC Championship game is now we now live in a different world. Sam Darnold is now a franchise quarterback. Him being anything other than Seattle's lead man for the next conservatively 4 years would be astonishing, right? All in all. And I give him credit for stepping up in that moment. I'm not trying to take away from him. I give that coaching staff worlds of credit for zagging on their own demeanor, which was Darnold isn't allowed to lose us games anymore, which is how they approached the second meeting with the Rams and the 2 games they played against the 49ers. But again, those were smart approaches, but the zag against the Rams was brilliant. I say all of that to say, Mike, I am fascinated in a world in which they let Darnold rip it again. I still cannot help but feel like that is begging for multiple Sam Darnold turnovers.
I understand where you're coming from, but it should be noted that in the Rams game, the first one that they lost, where Darnold blew up and threw 4 picks, they got back into that game by letting him throw it.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost that game by 2 points. So even back then, several months ago now, it was established that they were going to get back into games by utilizing Sam's arm and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and clearly other secondary, tertiary targets, right? We've seen Cooper Kupp and Jake Bobo make big plays to get them to the Super Bowl. What I would say is that I would be surprised if New England's approach was not, let's have Darnold beat us. Because Kenneth Walker, even though he's now on his own, but he can do it for one more game, right? He looked pretty damn good in the NFC Championship game. If the Seahawks want to put as much as they can on Kenneth Walker, I do not think the Patriots will let that happen. That clearly, I understand that the weather and the backup quarterback situation massively impacted Denver. But it was clear that the Patriots' game plan is RJ Harvey's not going to do anything in this game. We're just going to make it be Stidham's game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he hit them for a pass deep early, and the weather took over. But in the second half, even before it started snowing, New England had prevented Denver from getting the ball at all. And then it was too late, because now it's a blizzard, and the backup quarterback hadn't done anything offensively in 2 hours. And that was the Patriots' game plan. They forced, and it's what Belichick did. It's what Vrabel is obviously going to do. They're going to make you fight left-handed. If that's how you think they become left-handed. Now, Seattle's such a good team. Darnold obviously has been excellent this year. They can also run the ball. And by the way, the defense is pretty darn good too. It's worth noting, though, that the Rams had a lot of success against Seattle in the previous game. The muffed punt was a big play in Seattle's favor, but Matt Stafford ripped them apart. And will Drake May have the ability to do the same? I think not. My chief concern about the Patriots is May really has not played well. I'm glad his legs make plays for a touchdown and a big first down, and clearly in the previous game as well. But their offense hasn't looked particularly good at all through 3 games.
It hasn't, and I think there's a level of defense in what we've seen from May in the offense that I will offer up. But it is not a full defense. I just want to say, though, because you mentioned the fact that the Rams were able to score on Seattle, right, in multiple matchups. And what you'll notice when you go through the list of teams Seattle played, ultimately, there are only a handful of elite offenses in the National Football League, and the Rams are absolutely one of them. Mm-hmm. The Patriots are absolutely one of them. Aside from playing the Rams, what you would look to for Seattle would be the games against San Francisco. And that is where I struggle. Everyone knows Seattle's defense is absolutely fantastic. My point is, though, the Week 18 game, Trent Williams doesn't play, nor Ricky Pearsall. By the time we get to the divisional round, you have a massive rest advantage because they made the Niners play on short rest, which was insane. But you also had, at that point, lost George Kittle. I mean, just the injuries were comical, right, at that point. Yeah. So it's not that I don't think Seattle has a more than capable defense. It's that I have seen the top end, the top 1% of offenses move the ball on them. And New England has been in that category this season. And I think, Mike, some of their defensive or offensive lack of output can be assigned to looking at their opponent and knowing their opponent offensively was bringing no true threat to the table.
That's definitely true at some point during the Denver game, that they knew they could play it extremely conservatively, but we also were contending with weather. They weren't trying to, in the second half, kick a field goal and salt it away. That was not the game plan. They got stopped, right? They got stopped short. They had a short field goal that they converted in that game. So there still are issues there. And I'm not saying they can't bounce back. Yeah. They've got 2 weeks. They can get a little bit healthier. Can Will Campbell be better?
Yeah. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl next here on SportsGrid.
Just the fear that we had going on. And the players obviously were paid $10,000 to $30,000 per fix. But what this does is it hits at the core of the identity in the sport, especially in the modern day betting era.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, my co-host on GameTime Decisions, Josh Doan, is featured so much. And I also want to say this basically now confirms we are the premier Josh Doan network in all of sports media. No way no other show mentions Josh Doan as much as this one. Is that a success? Is that a failure? I don't know, but I think it's true.
GameTime Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But I remember being 16 in high school, being in my school uniform, long pants and a tie, and I deadlifted 200 kgs, so that's 440 pounds. So yeah, so that was I actually have a video of it, so it might get leaked somewhere. Someone might be able to find that one.
We might need to get that one to B-roll the show in.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime Decisions here on SportsGrid, where we are going to update the live board. We've got Mike Blewett with us here as well. Mike, I know you're always in for a story. This is a quick one. I bet the Rangers Islanders over 5.5 as a best bet, and was mercilessly bullied in the background by both Chris and Sam. And both are now, as my best bet is certainly struggling, hoping that their best bet can come in. And they are a bit worried, perhaps, about the karmic energy they have put in the air.
Well, we reap what we sow, Kev. So if we're not going to be for the team, who are we for, right?
That's a great question.
If God be for us, who be against us, some would say. So in this instance, we're talking about let's root for some friends to get some bets across the goal line.
Yeah. And yet, instead, after the first period was scoreless in Rangers Islanders, Chris said, okay, how about a truce? I need you to root in my first period over. And what's interesting is that's 3 more minutes of me rooting on Chris, which I had already been doing. And when that first period is over, I assume he'll go right back to rooting in the under of Islanders.
Can I ask a
Rangers.
question? Why are we betting Why are we betting NHL?
No, I love
when
that.
players are being rested before the Olympics.
I love that.
And in advance of the trade deadline. Why are we doing that now? We're betting overs when Panarin is being sat because they know he's going to be traded before the Olympic freeze. It's an odd time to pick NHL bets.
It's a great question. And again, it's kind of why you bring Mike Blewett in. It's one of those moments where you go, wish that guy was here 2 hours ago. Could have really rerouted.
Guy in on for some puck talk.
I gotta be honest, I'm pretty sure, and this is no slight to anyone else who's been on this show talking hockey, might be the best hockey breakdown we've had, which is, why are you betting it? I think it's pretty good. Then again, though, Mike, you're dialed into the A-Sun right now, I've been hearing.
Absolutely. We're taking an under on Stetson UNF. Under 164.5. We're at 70 right now in the final minute.
Yeah.
I think we're putting up a 95 in the second. What are we talking about?
Right. No, it doesn't feel likely. Sure doesn't. Then again, Mike, I've seen some unlikely thing with some totals in throughout this week. I've seen some unlikely things, Mike.
College basketball is the most heartbreaking sport. Clearly.
Oh, yeah.
NFL, clearly we love to talk about it. It's hard to win. College basketball, it feels like a lock. Nothing ever is, but they feel like it. And then you get a ridiculous foul. Guy chucks up a 3-pointer at the buzzer for no reason, and you're over. Why did we do that?
Mike, you know what feels like a lock? Steelers between 8 and 10 wins next year.
Why would I expect anything else? Why would I expect anything else?
Well, because Tomlin was gone and they had a chance to change things, and they said, what could get us the most similar feel on the market? Nailed it, Mike McCarthy.
So here's what I'll say. I'm not going to defend it because I'm not really a fan of the hire. It's very unique in that this is clearly not like a 10-year plan. He's 63 years old, same age as John Harbaugh. So I'm not being an ageist, but he's not going to be the coach for 20 years like the previous, or 15 years like the previous 15 or more. So I think people are piling on, but dismissing that he's a really good offensive coach. But logically, we're going to run it back like it's the 2010 Packers with Rodgers and McCarthy. This team needed a bunch more pieces. I'm glad they won the division, and they won effectively a late season playoff atmosphere type game against the Ravens. Those are good things, but we still haven't won a playoff game in a really long time. And there are pieces missing on this team. Can the offensive line continue to grow and get better? Can they get more playmakers or allow Pat Freiermuth to be a playmaker and start to build the team out? They need to score more points consistently. Can we get rid of all the dump-off passes that Arthur Smith installed? If some of those things go away, there'll be some light at the end of the tunnel, but the defense is aging too. I can't consider the Steelers without some serious swings in the free agency market or a huge hit at the 21st pick in the draft to be a threat to make the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're that kind of team right now. They're caught in quarterback hell to some extent. I think Rodgers was fine, but I'm surprised that it's really going to be a potential Aaron Rodgers plan when I think if you watch that Texans game, you realize that it's over. Like it just looked like it was over to me. Even though he's obviously beloved by teammates and played okay this year.
Yeah. It's weird though, right? Like I mean, I think Mike, you kind of really nailed it. But I just, what I also kind of can't figure, maybe though you'll remember it better. So I might be misremembering it. Like, did the McCarthy-Rodgers tenure end on good terms?
There was a little sniping, but it seems like they've gotten over it. People long have considered Aaron Rodgers to be a coach killer. He denies it, and maybe it had run its course. There was a little sniping, and I brought this up recently too, but it seems like fences have been mended and they're on good terms. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to understand what the quarterback plan will be if it's not Rodgers.
Yeah. Well,
Kyler Murray?
So that, interestingly, I actually think Rodgers is a fine option because I think Pittsburgh should be taking a long approach. And I think there would be something poetic, I guess, of McCarthy and Rodgers as they draft a quarterback round 1 or 2 and attempt to then have that quarterback ready for next season. I think there is absolutely something to that because I think that I feel better about that than spending money and resources into Kyler Murray or Mac Jones, or anything of that nature. Let's get best bets on the board to close this thing out on a Thursday night here on SportsGrid after the break.
Just the fear that we had going on. And the players obviously were paid $10,000 to $30,000 per fix. But what this does is it hits at the core of the identity in the sport, especially in the modern day betting era.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Basically my co-host on GameTime Decisions, Josh Doan, is featured so much. And I also want to say this basically now confirms we are the premier Josh Doan network in all of sports media. No way no other show mentions Josh Doan as much as this one. Is that a success? Is that a failure? I don't know, but I think it's true.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets and, of course, is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But I remember being 16 in high school, being in my school uniform, long pants and a tie, and I deadlifted 200 kgs, so that's 440 pounds. So yeah, so that was I actually have a video of it, so it might get leaked somewhere. Someone might be able to find that one.
We might need to get that one to B-roll the show with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, game time decisions. Sometimes this happens where you realize you got about 4 different things you want to talk to Mike Blewett about, and you only got about 5 minutes. So best bets, here's the reality. They've all begun other than AJ's, which is Washington team total over 69.5. The reality is the hockey bets aren't looking good. Turns out maybe that was a bad idea to do a Hockey Thursday. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Some are going to say that I am the anchor, though, because Chris and Sam always bet the NHL. And you know what? I'll wear that at the minimum. I don't think Cooper Flagg is a bad look tonight going up against Charlotte. Points, rebounds, assists is at 30.5. So a couple of different things in terms of the NFL. We did about a half hour ago see Davis Webb was going to pull his name out of consideration for the Raiders job. People often say when a coach pulls his name out of consideration, it's because he knows he's not getting the job. I tend to believe that Kubiak is going to be the Raiders head coach because it's the Raider job or the Arizona job. It seems as if he can pick, and I think there is a massive, massive gap between those teams. I think most people might not think there is a huge gap because they don't think either job is good. I don't think the Arizona job is good. Mike, I think the Vegas job is good, actually. And the simplest case I can make is I think Fernando Mendoza is a franchise quarterback, a easy decision at first overall, and that would get me fired up. I think Mendoza enters into an offense with potentially 2 superstars already on it. I think Brock Bowers is definitively, and I think Ashton Genty still can be. I understand that they need to get the offensive line right, but that will be exactly what this team spends, I'm sure, a lot of the offseason doing. I think Brady's involvement in the organization when you're going to draft a quarterback 1 overall is in the pros column instead of the cons column. So I think, and I actually think what's crazy when it's all said and done is we may look at it where the Raiders ended up getting the best head coach candidate of this entire cycle in Clint Kubiak.
Entirely possible. I think you and I talk coaches a lot. I think it's very hard to nail what's going to happen when these coaches land. I think you and I and lots of people have lots of opinions about what will work, but there are so many variables at organizations into what makes it all successful. That's really hard. Like Sean McDermott was successful in Buffalo, but for ridiculous breaks in the postseason. I'm not saying he should or should not have been fired. That's already done, and Joe Brady's the new head coach. But look at what it takes to be considered a success in the NFL. And if you're right about Mendoza and you've got Kubiak, then they're tied to the success long term. These jobs are strikingly similar in that these two teams are by far the worst teams in their division, and they're in the 2 toughest divisions in the sport. The Chiefs had a bad year, but we expect them to bounce back on some level. The Broncos were 3 points away from the Super Bowl, and the Chargers won 11 games despite having the entire offensive line be out. So this, but Hall of Fame coaches, all 3 of them in the AFC West. Peyton and Reed and Harbaugh are going to be in various halls of fame for their coaching resumes. So, all right.
Based on
you can argue. Well, yeah, based on what we just saw this week, clearly they are all in question. But let's just put them in some sort of Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor. So that's going to be the tough part about the Raiders' job. They have a long way to go, and can they get over the hump in the next 4 years? That you're going to have to hope for. But clearly having the number 1 pick and Mendoza there is a big positive. Arizona's got a long way to go and no quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to get over the hump, right? Is all of a sudden, people are going to lose their minds when I say this. I'm not predicting this yet. Could they end up with the best quarterback in the division in the next 4 years? It's possible. They're drafting the first overall Heisman Trophy national champion quarterback. Arizona is likely going to be starting Jacoby Brissett in week 1, right? So I just think that kind of creates this huge gap. Mike, we got about a minute left. You want to give people your Bill Belichick doesn't make the Hall of Fame take?
I've said to you many times years ago, do not concern yourself with awards and Hall of Fame voting. It is spectacularly subjective and weird. And yes, I think those people are wrong, but they have their own reasons. I think it's all really ridiculous. And I've decided to not waste too much of my personal energy on it. I think he should be in. He'll be in next year. It'll be fine. Everyone will be okay. And you'll be more okay if you take Stetson, North Florida, under 163.5 live. You're welcome. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I mean, crushed it. What am I doing here? Right? Seeing that movie. Watch it weekly here on Game Time Decisions. In Game Live is next.
%7 chance of winning a PGA Tour major? Would I be wrong by saying I want to invest in the no on Scotty Scheffler? And that $100 investment would pay back $213 here. Everybody thinks Scotty's going to win. It's like 100 golfers in those fields each and every week, and the majors, the best golfers in the world. I'm going against the grain, Joe. Give me the no on Scotty Scheffler.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, oh, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis is shopping John Morant. Yeah, no kidding. They should have shopped him 2 years ago and got